A warning from the frozen sky. January 1986. The sky above Fairbanks, Alaska, was unnaturally still. At exactly 2:14 a.m., a red alert flashed on the NORAD radar station located just outside the icy outskirts of the military base. Operators froze. Something was moving. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't a plane. And it wasn't from here. An identified object entering U.S. airspace. That was the only phrase log before the signal vanished. No sound. No crash. No trail. Just gone. The object entered U.S. airspace at an impossible speed, then disappeared from all tracking systems within 8 seconds. Military jets were scrambled, but by the time they reached the coordinates, the sky was empty. Even stranger, no sonic boom, no radio signature, no heat detection. Whatever it was, it defied every known law of physics. But what exactly flew over Alaska that night? Why did NORAD declassify the incident immediately? And why did the logs from that shift vanish 2 weeks later? Official explanation: radar malfunction due to extreme cold. But the soldiers on duty swore otherwise. They saw something they weren't supposed to. I watched it with my own eyes. A man in his late 50s, now retired, once worked on that radar system. He later told an anonymous podcast host in 2004, "We logged an object moving at over 6,000 miles per hour. Then it stopped, just stopped, midair. Nothing does that. It wasn't one of ours. I know what stealth looks like. This wasn't human." He never gave his name. He died in 2006. What makes Alaska so special? Why do so many strange aerial phenomena appear in the skies above Alaska? Maybe because it's remote, sparse population, harsh terrain, hard to reach, easy to hide things, perfect for secrets. And just 50 miles from Fairbanks, beneath layers of snow and classified fencing, sits an underground facility with no name on the map. Locals call it Site Delta. The military says it's a communications relay, but former insiders tell another story. They say it's not just signals they're hiding. They're hiding what fell from the sky. Is this connected to Roswell? In 1947, the Roswell incident stunned the world, but it also opened a door. The government learned something that day and decided to never let it happen again in public. That's why Alaska was chosen. The wilderness is vast. No nosy civilians. No journalists. Just snow, silence, and secrets. Since the 1950s, reports of glowing orbs, zigzagging lights, and metallic saucers over Alaskan skies have quietly piled up. Most were dismissed, but the 1986 incident, that was different, because it was confirmed by NORAD, and because that same month, a military convoy was spotted transporting large, tarp cargo into the Arctic interior. Coincidence? But wait, where did it go? If the object vanished midair, then where did it land? Or did it land at all? A week after the radar event, local Inupiat hunters near the Yukon River reported hearing a metallic echo under the ice. Their dogs refused to go near the spot. The ground vibrated slightly, like a hum. They told a state ranger. The next day, helicopters came, military ones, and marked. The area was locked down for 72 hours. Then silence. What did they find beneath the ice? An impact crater, a craft, a being. No photos, no media coverage, not even a weather explanation. Just another ghost in the snow. Too many disappearances. Between 1986 and 1989, More than 15 military personnel stationed at remote Alaskan posts either went missing or were quietly transferred with no further record. One sergeant's wife wrote in a local forum in 1997, "My husband worked on something up north. He said it wasn't a weapon. It wasn't ours. He called it alive. Then one day he was gone. The base said he left on leave. I never saw him again." Her post was deleted, but someone had saved a screenshot. Why Alaska? Alaska is home to over 20,000 unexplained aerial sightings according to the National UFO Reporting Center, more than any other U.S. state per capita. The most famous, the 1986 Japan Airlines Flight 1628 incident. Just months after the NORAD event, a seasoned pilot and crew spotted a giant flying object the size of 2 aircraft carriers shadowing their cargo plane for over 30 minutes. Multiple radar stations confirmed it. It was real, the pilot later said. It moved faster than anything I'd ever seen. That case was quietly buried, just like the one before it, just like Alaska. The Blue Book connection. Project Blue Book was officially shut down in 1969, but some believe the investigations continued under different names in more secret locations. Alaska, they say, is one of them. A leaked document from 1993, marked with an unofficial seal of AFOSI Air Force Office of Special Investigations, mentioned Biological Entity Recovery Unit Site D Arctic Division. Skeptics say it's a hoax, but believers, they point to one phrase in the margins. Subject encased in cryostasis, minimal cellular activity, no signs of decomposition. What was recovered? Some say it was just wreckage, metal, and wires. Others whisper about a chamber, cold, sealed, containing something still breathing. But no one has photos. No one has proof, only whispers. Ask yourself, why so many military flights to Alaska with no cargo? Why the sudden spike in satellite no-fly zones over certain regions since 1987? Why are parts of Alaska still blurred on Google Maps? Is it just coincidence? Or is something being hidden, buried under layers of snow, steel, and silence? What if it's still there? What if the craft didn't vanish? It was taken. What if it's not a mystery NORAD failed to solve, but a secret they successfully locked away? What if the 1986 incident was the beginning of something bigger, something never meant for the public to know? And what if we've only scratched the icy surface? Memories of a former CIA agent. There's a warehouse beneath the ice, deep under Alaska. We stored something there, something not from Earth. The voice was calm, gravelly, but it shook the host of the Underground podcast. The man on the phone refused to give his real name. He didn't even let them record his voice, only notes. But what he revealed in that 1-hour conversation would ripple across the UFO community for years. Who was he? No one knows for sure. The host claimed he worked for the CIA's Special Scientific Division during the early 1990s. His clearance level, beyond top secret. He never mentioned a location, but he said he spent 4 winters in complete darkness, working in a base you'll never find on any satellite map. When asked what they did there, "We analyzed non-human material, and we kept it alive." A hidden warehouse under Alaska. The man described a facility buried over 800 feet beneath the tundra, accessible only by air during winter, carved into ancient permafrost, invisible to radar, no above-ground entrances. Just one elevator shaft, disguised as a weather monitoring station. He called it the cold room. Inside, there were 4 sealed chambers. One held debris, one held organic remains, One had full containment, and the last, I was never allowed inside. Not from this Earth. The way he described the objects didn't match any known aircraft. No wires, no rivets, no propulsion system. It wasn't crashed, he said. It was landed, soft, controlled, intact. But the strangest part, it reacted. When exposed to heat, the metal pulsed. When placed near magnets, it floated silently. When humans touched it, some experienced nausea or visions. It was like it knew you were watching. The being. He hesitated to speak of it, but when pressed, the voice on the other end of the line said one word: preserve. Then silence. Finally, he spoke again. Roughly 4 feet tall, gray-blue skin, thin arms, 3 fingers. The head was too big, eyes dark, almost liquid. But here's the part that made the host freeze. It wasn't dead. Its chest moved, just barely. One rise every 47 seconds. Why didn't they alert the world? The caller laughed, cold. You think we tell the world we're not alone, and that we've got one in our basement? People would panic. Religions would collapse. Economies would crumble. So instead, we kept it frozen, and we studied it. He said they called it Specimen 6. No one knew if it was conscious, but it reacted to light, and once, it blinked. Only once. Connection to the 1986 NORAD event? The timeline fits. The whistleblower confirmed the object was retrieved from the ice in 1986, weeks after the radar anomaly above Fairbanks. They tracked it to a valley north of Denali. It hadn't crashed, it had landed gently into a frozen lake. A military operation codenamed Operation Glacial Night retrieved the object and transported it in pieces to the underground cold room. That's where Specimen 6 was found, curled in a fetal position, eyes closed, breathing barely. Where are the documents? The host asked the obvious. Do you have proof? The man claimed he once held documents, blue folders, labeled Bioexoclassed Do Not Duplicate. But after his retirement, he was warned. They visited me. 2 men, no IDs. They took everything. Photos, discs, even my trash. They told me, you talk, you disappear. But I'm old now, I've got nothing left to lose. What happened to the base? According to him, the cold room still exists, but it's no longer run by the CIA. It's private now. Contractors, black budget. I don't know who's in charge anymore. But I know one thing. They're not just watching it. They're trying to wake it up. Wake it up. That phrase echoed across the internet. What does it mean? Was Specimen 6 alive but dormant? Did it possess intelligence? Could it communicate? It didn't talk, he said. But once, it hummed. Low frequency. We couldn't detect it with human ears, but the equipment picked it up. It resonated. Then one day all readings flatlined. The being stopped breathing. No more movement. No more hum. They froze it deeper, kept it in carbon shielding, but some believe it wasn't dead. It simply shut down. And what about the other 3 chambers? He only described 2 in detail. One with wreckage, one with the being. What was behind the 3rd sealed chamber? Or the 4th, the one he was never allowed to enter? When asked, he replied only, not everything inside that warehouse came from 1986. There were older things, much older, ancient. Another theory emerged, that the cold room didn't just hold one being but many, recovered over decades. From Roswell, from the Arctic, from the Pacific trenches. Some even whisper, from ancient tombs. Is it possible that Earth has been a repository, a testing ground, that these beings have been coming here for centuries, and that the government has always known? But why speak now? When asked why he came forward after all these years, The former agent paused. Because they're moving it. They're planning to relocate the specimen. Far south, near water. Somewhere warmer. And I think they're going to try and wake it for real this time. If they succeed, we may not be the dominant species anymore. Is it just a story? Skeptics say yes. No name, no documents, no photos. But believers, they point to too many coincidences. Satellite blackouts over Alaska. Sudden rise in unmarked Arctic flights. Increasing seismic readings near Denali without tectonic explanation. Roswell was not the only one. 1947. Roswell shocked the world. A flying saucer supposedly crashed in New Mexico. Military quickly said it was a weather balloon. But witnesses said otherwise. But what if Roswell was just the beginning? What if there were more crashes, more recoveries, more secrets? Because the Cold War was heating up, and the skies weren't safe. Did you know? Thousands of reports surfaced between 1947 and 1969. Many were ignored, many disappeared, but some pointed north to remote, frozen places. Alaska. Vast, isolated, perfect for secrets. Why Alaska? No cities, no crowds, just snow, mountains, and silence. Easy to hide things, easy to bury truth. Multiple UFO sightings were reported, from mysterious lights over Anchorage to strange metallic objects seen near the Arctic Circle. Even the Air Force had to investigate. Project Blue Book wasn't just about New Mexico. It covered the whole U.S., and some files were classified top secret, especially those related to Alaska. Reports described crash sites, not one, but several. One near Mount Redoubt, another by the Kuskokwim River, and others in the Alaska Range. Military was dispatched quickly. They cordoned off areas, transported strange debris, recovered bodies. Who were the witnesses? Hunters, trappers, military personnel. Many were sworn to silence. Some disappeared. Some went silent. A chilling pattern emerges. What if the government created secret underground facilities in Alaska to store what they found, to hide it from the world? A leaked memo from the 1950s references a site, codenamed Project Iceberg. Its purpose: recover and contain extraterrestrial materials. Its location, and marked, deep in the Alaskan wilderness. Why keep it secret? The Cold War meant paranoia. A crashed alien ship was a threat. Technology worth billions. A secret weapon. Did the U.S. government want to hide evidence of aliens? Probably, because revealing the truth could cause chaos, undermine authority, or worse, start a panic. What about witnesses who tried to speak? Many were discredited. Others vanished mysteriously. Could Alaska's secret bases be bigger than Roswell? Possibly. More remote, more dangerous, more classified. What about the artifacts? Reports say metals that don't exist on Earth, shapes that defy engineering, technology centuries ahead. And bodies? Some reports mention alien-like bodies recovered. Small, fragile, gray-skinned. Others larger, with features not human. Could this explain strange disappearances? Throughout the Cold War, several military personnel assigned to Arctic bases went missing. What if the Cold War wasn't just between nations? What if it was a cover for something far stranger? Imagine a network of secret vaults hidden beneath Alaska's ice and rock, storing technology, holding creatures, preserving mysteries. Would you believe it? Would you question what you've been told? The files were sealed. Blue Book officially ended in 1969. But insiders say investigations continued underground. In the 1980s, Satellite images showed no-fly zones over parts of Alaska, restricted airspace, blackout areas. What's under the ice? We may never know, but the clues point to something enormous. What if Roswell was just the tip of the iceberg, a distraction, a false flag, to hide the truth buried in the north? The question remains, what did the government find in Alaska during the Cold War? And what are they still hiding? Next part teaser. Project Blue Book files vanished. But what about those missing documents and the secrets they held? Project Blue Book and the vanished files. Over 12,000 UFO cases investigated, hundreds declassified, but some vanished completely. Where did they go? And what were they hiding? Project Blue Book was supposed to be the end of the story. It started in 1952, officially tasked with investigating UFO sightings. By 1969, it shut down. The conclusion: nothing of extraterrestrial origin was found. But that wasn't the whole truth, not even close. What about the missing files? Among the cases, a handful were marked "Eyes Only Top Secret." These weren't about strange lights or blurry photos. These were about physical evidence. And in at least 3 of those cases, the reports involved Alaska. One report dated 1961. An identified biological specimen retrieved Denali perimeter. Containment successful. Status: non-terrestrial. Another in 1964. Recovery team transported metallic craft fragments. Material unrecognized by metallurgy team. Magnetic resistance extreme. And a third 1967. Autopsy performed. Subject features non-human cranial structure. No internal organs comparable to Homo sapiens. Report sealed. These documents existed, but by 1970, they were no longer accessible. The index numbers were scrubbed, cross-references removed. Officially, they were never written. Who made them disappear? Insiders say these files didn't vanish, they were absorbed into another program. After Project Blue Book closed, the information pipeline didn't stop. It went deeper, into black budgets, into unacknowledged programs, into places Congress couldn't reach. Denali keeps appearing. Why? Why does this remote, ice-covered mountain range appear again and again in military documents? It's one of the most inaccessible places on Earth, but military helicopters are spotted there constantly. Some say there's a facility under Denali, not a base, a vault. The body. One of the sealed Project Blue Book files described a body recovered after a skyfall event. It wasn't just any body. The wording was specific: carbon-based life form, genomic structure anomalous. Skin reflects non-visible spectrum. It was found buried in ice, still intact. 2 meters tall. Eyes oversized. Teeth none. Fingers 6. Who found it? Local rangers first reported strange magnetic readings near a glacier. When they arrived at the site, compasses spun wildly. Then the ice collapsed, revealing something metallic. The military took over within 12 hours. The area was sealed, and the rangers were reassigned permanently. Was this connected to the cold room? It fits. The timeline matches. Specimen 6, the being stored in the underground Alaska facility, may not have come from 1986. It could be one of multiple recoveries. What if the cold room isn't just a lab, but a crypt? A biological archive of things not from Earth? Project Blue Book was just the surface. For years, the public believed the project found nothing. But behind the curtain, another truth unfolded. Some files even Air Force insiders couldn't access. They were stored in locations without names and watched by agencies with no public existence. A pilot's death raises more questions. In 1966, a USAF pilot named Captain Thomas Greaves was assigned to fly non-standard cargo from Anchorage to a classified research site. He never returned. The official report said engine failure, but his plane was brand new. His last radio transmission. Cargo is active. It's vibrating, then static. His family never got answers. No wreckage was found, and his logs erased. A growing pattern. Too many strange disappearances. Too many silenced voices. What was the government afraid of? That the public would panic, or that someone else, another country, would get to the truth first. Cold War paranoia ran deep. If one nation got alien tech, it could tip the balance of global power. That's why secrecy mattered. That's why Project Blue Book couldn't be the end. It had to go underground. The hidden codename, Echo Vault. A researcher from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base leaked a phrase found on a misfiled blueprint. Echo Vault, biological containment, polar sector. He believed this was a reference to the Alaskan coal room, a secret continuation of Blue Book's classified findings. ECHO may stand for Extraterrestrial Containment Holding Operation. Why remove the files? Because some truths can't be handled. Not by the media, not by governments, not even by scientists. The files spoke of things that defied biology. Materials no lab could analyze. Signals no equipment could translate. And now, the files are gone, but the stories remain. And the witnesses, the few who speak, paint a terrifying picture. Not just one crash, not just one being, but many, stored, frozen, waiting. Do we have a vault of alien remains beneath our own soil? And if so, what are we planning to do with them? The unmarked flights. They flew at night. No lights, no call signs, no records. Where did they go? And what were they carrying? It started with a whisper. An air traffic controller at Elmendorf Air Force Base, located just outside Anchorage, Alaska, broke his silence in 2002. He'd worked there for over a decade, seen thousands of routine flights, but some were anything but routine. We called them ghost flights. That's what he told a journalist under a pseudonym. His voice shaken, his words slow. Every few weeks, usually after 2 a.m., a C-130 would land. No tail number, no manifest, no radio communication. It came in low and silent, always the same direction, and always left within 30 minutes. What made it suspicious? First, the cargo. Each time, ground crews saw a massive container 40 feet long, covered in black tarp. No labels, no warnings, no markings, but there were always armed escorts. Silent, unfriendly, unidentifiable. No manifest, no paperwork. In military aviation, that's unheard of. Every object has a log. Every mission has a code. But not these. They didn't exist on our system. We were told, do not log, do not ask. Where did they go? Every time, the C-130 took off due north, into the Arctic. No flight plan, no radar trail, just vanished. Into what? Into where? There are no official U.S. bases that far north, just ice, mountains, and mystery. Unless those flights were headed to something that doesn't exist on the map. An underground facility, a coal room, a vault buried in the ice. Could they be transporting alien materials? It fits the timeline and the pattern. After the 1986 incident near Denali and the Project Blue Book files disappearing, the military would need a secure, remote route to move non-human objects. What better way than under the cover of darkness? One flight, in particular, changed everything. A ground technician anonymous, of course, claims that during one loading procedure, the tarp slipped, just for a moment. What he saw: metal, dark, almost black, smooth, seamless, no bolts, no screws. But it wasn't just a shape. It pulsed, like it was alive. He reported it. The next day, he was reassigned to Guam within 24 hours. No explanation. He never returned to Alaska. A pilot's confession. Another whistleblower, a former Air Force pilot, spoke on a conspiracy podcast in 2015. He flew a modified C-130 during the early 1990s. We weren't told what we carried, but we were told, don't ask, don't open, don't look back. I asked once. The commander stared me down and said, "You don't want to see what's in there. Could these be related to Specimen 6? Absolutely. We've already learned of an underground facility known as the Cold Room, where biological entities not from Earth were stored. How did they get there? These flights may be the answer. Why no tail numbers? Military law requires identifiable markings, but these aircraft were different. All black, no serial, no national emblem, just the hum of the engine and the cold of secrecy. Could private contractors be involved? Some believe the U.S. government outsourced alien transport after Blue Book ended. To who? Lockheed, Raytheon, or lesser-known private firms operating under NDA letters and offshore financing. These flights might not even be military anymore, just military protected. What's inside those containers? Debris, technology, corpses, or something worse, something still alive. One report claimed sound. In early 1997, a night technician at Elmendorf heard a low-frequency hum as one container was being offloaded. It wasn't mechanical. It sounded like a whale, but slower, sadder. No one else acknowledged it. And then came the incident. In 2001, one of these unmarked C-130s was seen lifting off in a rush far faster than standard protocol. It veered violently north. Then radar contact was lost. No wreckage was ever found. No search teams dispatched. Just silence, as if the plane and whatever it carried had never existed. Does the government know? Of course, but they don't talk. Everything's classified. Everything's denied. Freedom of Information Act requests rejected. National security. So why keep flying? Because whatever is up there buried in the ice is active, changing, reacting, possibly evolving, and the shipments continue to contain it or feed it. No one knows. One final clue. A recently uncovered satellite photo taken by accident during a research scan of Arctic weather shows something unnatural. A large structure, angular, dark, half buried under the snow, and just outside it, a C-130, and marked, frozen in time. Are these flights feeding a machine, stockpiling alien weapons, hiding a crashed civilization, or keeping something alive that should have died? The only leaked photo, one photo, blurry, grainy, but impossible to forget. It surfaced in 2003, posted anonymously on an obscure ufology forum that no longer exists. But the image went viral quietly in the underground. It showed something the world was never supposed to see. What was in the photo? A circular object, smooth, metallic, partially sunken into melting ice. It wasn't crashed. It wasn't broken. It looked intact. And on it four men in military uniforms, dragging it slowly with cables. Behind them, snow-covered peaks, a frozen valley, and rising in the distance, the unmistakable outline of the Alaska Range. Was it real? Skeptics called it a hoax. too blurry, too conveniently anonymous. But analysts noticed something chilling. The shadow geometry was consistent. The lighting matched the time of day in March 2003, and one military insignia, although mostly obscured, appeared to match a classified Arctic recovery unit. Who took the photo? No one knows. The original post was made under the username Vigilrid13. The caption, "They're moving it," before the melt. Within hours, the image was downloaded thousands of times. Within days, the forum was taken offline. It never came back. What happened to the user? Gone. No trace. Email account deleted. IP address routed through multiple proxies. Some believe Vigilrid13 was an insider, a whistleblower, or someone who got too close. Let's examine the photo. Foreground: a half-submerged object, about 20 to 25 feet in diameter. Smooth surface. No markings. No seams. No windows. Midground: two men pulling cables, wearing Arctic camouflage. Faces blurred, possibly due to motion. One is holding a long device, possibly a radiation scanner. Background: jagged, icy cliffs, consistent with the southern slopes of the Alaska Range. Satellite overlays later confirmed the topography matches. Why move it before the melt? Every spring, large portions of permafrost and glacial cover in Alaska begin to shift. If something was buried under the ice, it would eventually become exposed, or worse, accessible to civilians. This operation looks like an extraction under pressure, a recovery before revelation. Is this the same object from 1986? It could be. We know that in January 1986, an ORAD tracked an unidentified object over Fairbanks. It vanished over Denali. Weeks later, military helicopters were seen flying into the area. Could they have failed to retrieve it back then? Could the object have gone deeper, frozen in place, waiting until spring thaw exposed it again? One strange detail: zooming in on the object's surface reveals something odd. A reflection, a faint curve, possibly a human silhouette. Not one of the men pulling it, but someone standing still, just out of frame. Some say it looks like a photographer. Others say it's not human at all. How did the military respond? They didn't. No official statement. No denial. No confirmation. But 2 weeks after the photo's release, users on another UFO forum reported that their posts discussing the image were being automatically deleted. Then something even stranger happened. A user posted a higher resolution version. 1 hour later, their account was suspended. Then came the takedown. Shortly after the photo circulated, reverse image searches began to fail. That's not normal. Usually photos leave a digital fingerprint, but this one, it was like the internet was being scrubbed from web archives, from reuploads, even from encrypted UFO archives. Only low-res copies survived, pixelated, almost unusable, but the shape was still clear, and the message unmistakable. So, what did we learn? That something circular was recovered in the Alaska Range, that it was intact, that military personnel were involved, that someone against all odds managed to capture it, and that the government worked fast to bury it again. Could this be the evidence we've been waiting for? Maybe, but one photo, no matter how convincing, isn't enough. Still, it connects the dots. The 1986 NORAD event, the cold room beneath Alaska, the unmarked C-130 flights, and now visual proof of a recovery. One anonymous tip came after the photo leak. A user emailed the forum admin of another UFO site. The message read, "That image was just one moment. There are more. Video exists. But if it gets out, people will disappear. The admin never received another email. They shut down their site 2 months later. Is this the beginning of something bigger? Is this photo just one frame of a much larger story? What was inside the saucer? Was it piloted? Was it ancient? Was it watching? Why Alaska? Again and again, the same question. Why do so many incidents converge on this frozen, forgotten place? Maybe because it's the perfect hiding spot. Or maybe because something chose it long before we did. The Blue Glacier base, fact or fiction? Could it be true? A hidden base deep beneath Alaska's glaciers. A secret vault for alien technology and bodies. They call it Blue Glacier. Where did this name come from? It surfaced in late 1990s conspiracy forums, whispered among insiders, mentioned in leaked CIA cables, later dismissed as fabrications. Yet, the theory persists. What is Blue Glacier? According to conspiracies, Blue Glacier is an underground military complex located in a remote Alaskan mountain range, built in the 1950s during the height of the Cold War. Purpose: store and study recovered alien craft and beings. Why Alaska? Its isolation, its frozen tundra, unreachable except by specialized military craft. The perfect hiding place. What evidence supports Blue Glacier? Satellite imagery, unexplained disturbances, and geometric shapes beneath ice fields. Declassified documents, references to cold containment zones in Alaska, whistleblower testimonies. Former military and intelligence officers speak of deep underground vaults hidden by layers of security. One former soldier claimed, "We flew over the Blue Glacier site once. The ice was cracked in a perfect circle. No natural cause. The base was buried under it." Is Blue Glacier connected to the cold room? Most researchers think yes. The cold room mentioned earlier may be part of the Blue Glacier facility, one of several chambers. A giant underground labyrinth. Why keep it secret? Because the contents are too dangerous, too revolutionary, or too terrifying. What might be inside? Alien ships intact enough to reverse engineer. Biological specimens in cryogenic sleep. Advanced technology beyond human understanding. Are there reports of strange activity? Yes. Residents near the area report strange humming noises at night, unexplained light flashes in the sky, sudden military blackouts of communication and GPS. Why has no one officially confirmed it? Because no official records exist, or they have been heavily redacted. Even the Pentagon avoids discussing Alaska in relation to UFOs. Could the Blue Glacier base be why? The base is classified above top secret. Access limited to a handful of government officials. Even Congress is kept in the dark. What about the paranormal? Some reports include soldiers experiencing unexplained cold spots, equipment malfunctioning mysteriously, encounters with entities not quite human. Could it be a government experiment? Or worse, a prison for alien captives? One whistleblower said, "They're not just studying them. They're trying to communicate, maybe even negotiate." But what if we can't understand what's on the other side? What if Blue Glacier is just the beginning? What if similar bases exist elsewhere, spread across the globe, connected in a secret network? The implications? If true, it would rewrite history, expose decades of cover-ups, change how we see humanity's place in the universe. But is it just fantasy? Skeptics say it's an elaborate myth, a product of paranoia, nothing more than rumors and wishful thinking. Yet, the pieces fit too well. The missing Project Blue Book files, the unmarked flights, the leaked photo, and now Blue Glacier. Would you dare to explore it? Would you want to know the truth? Or is some knowledge too dangerous? One last question. If they hid the truth beneath glaciers, what else lies frozen beneath the ice? The frost cell program, a living secret beneath the ice. They call it frost cell. And according to leaked documents, something inside is still alive. What is frost cell? A rumored top-secret biological containment program operated jointly by the CIA, Pentagon, and undisclosed biotech contractors, buried beneath the Alaskan permafrost, hidden from public records, shielded by layers of deniability. Its purpose: to preserve, monitor, and study extraterrestrial life forms at sub-zero temperatures. The whispers began in 2009. An anonymous email circulated among defense contractors. It referenced a cold containment protocol tied to a base near the Alaska Range. The email was quickly deleted, accounts shut down, but screenshots survived. Inside, one sentence stood out: frost cell monitoring reports signs of low-grade metabolic activity. Subject remains biologically unstable. Low-grade activity. Could that mean it's still alive? Could it mean it never died? What exactly was recovered? Sources suggest that after the 1986 NORAD incident, a craft was found embedded in ice. Inside, one being, humanoid, around 7 feet tall, grayish-blue skin, no visible mouth, no pupils, 6 fingers, and no heartbeat. But tissue samples behaved oddly. They didn't decay. They responded to light, and under cold temperatures they moved. A classified medical report leaked in fragments noted blood-like fluid crystallized, but retained protein structure. Skin regenerated microtears. Brainwave-like signals, barely detectable, pulsed once every 19 minutes. One scientist wrote, "We may be looking at a form of stasis we don't understand. It's not dead. It's not alive. It's something in between." Why freeze it? Because warmth might wake it up. Because interaction might be dangerous. Because we don't know what it wants. So, they built frost cell, a vault within Blue Glacier. Walls lined with cryogenic panels. Sensors constantly scanning for motion. Biotech interfaces alerting staff if anything changes. The room is always at -50°C. No human enters without full suits. Robotic arms perform all procedures. 2 armed guards stand outside 24/7. Cameras are limited. Even internal footage is on isolated drives, air-gapped from the internet. What happens when the temperature rises? In 2016, during a malfunction in the cooling system, temperatures inside frost cell rose to -35°C for 17 minutes. Sensors recorded increased neural activity, twitching of limbs, sudden spike in ambient radiation. One robotic probe melted from an internal energy burst. The being never woke up, but the incident terrified staff. Protocols were rewritten, redundancies added, and access to the chamber was reduced from 12 staff members to only 3. Who are the 3? No one knows. Their identities are classified. They're said to be part of a multi-agency biological risk team trained in alien physiology, quantum containment, and psychic shielding. Psychic shielding? Yes. Because one leaked frost cell briefing described a phenomenon called neural contagion event. Neural contagion event. In 2014, a technician reportedly experienced vivid hallucinations after working near the containment chamber. He claimed he saw stars not known to astronomy, heard whispers in a language he didn't understand, felt as if something was inside his mind, scanning it. He collapsed, was rushed out, and never allowed back. Diagnosis: cognitive breach, source unknown. possibly mimetic in nature. What are they hiding? Is this creature communicating, dreaming, waiting, or projecting? Theories abound. Some say frost cell is not just for one being, but multiple, each in their own sub-zero cell, each waiting for their environment to be restored. Could they be from an ice planet, from a place where warmth means death? Or is our cold just their pause button, a warning from an insider? In 2021, a blurred voice appeared on a dark web podcast. He claimed to be a retired military biologist. They think they're in control. They're not. The subject in Frost Cell isn't passive. It's listening. It's learning. It doesn't need to move to understand us. When asked if it could escape, he responded, "Not physically, but mentally." Who says it hasn't already? What does that mean? Could this being have telepathic capabilities? Could it be influencing thoughts? Could it be planting ideas? What if this entire leak, all these stories are part of its plan? A way to seed curiosity, to force us to dig, to let it out. One final chilling detail. Frost Cell's containment logs, as shared in a 2023 hack, show a pulsing rhythm from the being's internal signals. A consistent beat, at first random, but when charted over time, it forms a pattern. Not biological, not random, mathematical. A code, but no one has cracked it yet. Did the CIA erase an entire town? No war, no disaster, no fire, but the entire town vanished. How does a whole community just disappear? Portlock, Alaska, once a thriving village in the deep Alaskan wilderness. By 1951, completely abandoned, homes left furnished, tools scattered on the ground, meals still half finished on tables. Everyone was gone. Not a single family stayed behind. Why? The official version: tough winters, economic downturn, migration to nearby cities. But the locals know better. They always did. They speak of something that moved in the woods, something that wasn't human, something watching. They called it Nantinuk, in native lore a shadow creature, tall, dark, silent. It left no tracks, but people died, bodies found torn apart, others vanished without a trace. Hunters stopped returning. Children reported glowing eyes near the tree line. Screams echoed at night, and then silence. The town emptied in weeks. People packed what they could carry, left in boats, in fear. But what if it wasn't folklore? What if it wasn't just fear that drove them out? What if something else made them disappear? The theory: the CIA was involved, and Portlock wasn't abandoned. It was erased. Here's where it gets disturbing. In 2008, a declassified CIA memo was uncovered in a Freedom of Information Act dump, buried in a batch of Cold War psychological studies. One paragraph stood out. The Portlock region was deemed unsuitable for further civilian exposure due to B-entity event. Relocation was executed successfully. Civilian memory degradation program rated effective. What is B-entity? And what does memory degradation mean? A second memo dated 1953 included GPS coordinates. They matched the exact location of the old Portlock site, and next to the coordinates, two redacted words, followed by one sentence: asset secured, subject terminated, area quarantined. Terminated, quarantined. What was in those woods? Some believe Portlock was the site of an alien crash or containment breach, that a biological specimen similar to the one in Frost Cell had escaped, roaming the forest, feeding, hunting. Locals were never told. And the CIA? They moved in not to save but to control the narrative. Witnesses silenced, families warned, and whatever was found, recovered, or destroyed. A local fisherman, now in his 80s, told a podcaster in 2019. There were men who came in black boats. No flags, no names. They set up tents, then trucks came. They didn't speak our language, but they had guns. After that, people stopped asking questions. Did they erase Portlock to cover up an alien event? The pattern fits. The CIA had motive and precedent. They had already meddled in UFO recovery operations globally. Why not in their own backyard? There's more. Satellite scans of the Portlock area in 2011 revealed something strange. A perfectly rectangular concrete slab, 40 feet wide, covered in moss, but not natural. No record of construction. No known foundation permit. What was built there? And more importantly, what was buried underneath? A team of explorers tried to investigate in 2013. They never made it. Weather turned suddenly. Communications failed. They were forced to evacuate. They called it a wall of static. Their compasses spun endlessly. Even GPS went dark. Are we looking at a forgotten experiment? An alien encounter the government chose to bury literally. Portlock could have been ground zero for something uncontrollable, something biological, something alive. Could it be the same species as Frost Cell's occupant? Or another? Perhaps not all recoveries are made from crashed ships. Some may have walked here, or were left behind. One theory: Portlock wasn't abandoned. It was quarantined, and the creature, not killed, but contained, possibly moved to the Blue Glacier facility, or held in a separate vault nearby. A strange coincidence. A Cold War-era flight manifest Declassified in 2020 lists a non-standard biological payload airlifted from Chatham Bay sector to a facility codenamed Foxtrot 6. Portlock sits on Chatham Bay. Was this the final extraction? The cleanup? The last flight before the town was left to rot? What would make an entire government choose erasure? Something it couldn't explain. Something it couldn't control. Something that could change everything we know about our place in the universe. Portlock is still empty. No one lives there. No homes rebuilt. No roads repaired. Only silence. And the sound of the trees whispering, as if they remember. One last thing. A hiker in 2015 reported seeing a figure tall, thin, glowing faintly, standing perfectly still near the abandoned schoolhouse. When he turned to get his camera, it vanished. He never went back. Was Portlock the first cover-up? Or just one of many? How many towns need to disappear before we start asking the right questions? The vanished ones. 22 people. Gone. Without a trace. No bodies. No clues. No answers. What's happening near Barrow, Alaska? And why is no one talking about it? It began with a pattern. Between 1997 and 2018, the U.S. Coast Guard quietly logged over 20 disappearances in the region near Utqiagvik, formerly known as Barrow, the northernmost town in the United States. Men, women, tourists, locals, researchers vanished into the ice. Some were last seen on snowmobiles, some hiking, some working remote research stations, but none of them ever came back. Official reports say lost in wilderness, extreme conditions, hypothermia likely, but families don't buy it. Locals whisper another theory. The sky took them. The UFO corridor. Barrow sits beneath a mysterious flight path, known unofficially as Echo 7. It's an Arctic corridor where radar anomalies, unknown aerial vehicles, and light phenomena have been reported since the Cold War. A 1989 NORAD internal radar log, now declassified, shows an object moving at 12,000 miles per hour, entering from the west coast of Russia and vanishing over Barrow. No sonic boom, no visual, just gone. Could the disappearances be connected? Multiple disappearances happened within days of radar activity. Coincidence or consequence? The Coast Guard knows more than it says. In 2012, an internal memo leaked. It mentions classified interference with rescue operations near Barrow. One line stands out. Air traffic grounded due to UAP presence. Personnel advised to evacuate Alpha Zone and avoid visual exposure. UAP unidentified aerial phenomena. Alpha Zone, a stretch of uninhabited tundra 30 miles south of Barrow. That same month, 3 all workers disappeared near that very zone. They were wearing GPS trackers. The signal stopped instantly. No error, no fade, just cut off. Could they have fallen through the ice? Unlikely. The terrain is flat. No cliffs. No deep water in the search area. No cracks reported. And no rescue dogs ever found a scent trail. One survivor. One mystery. In 2005, a bush pilot named Leo Hanks reported a bizarre event while flying supplies to a remote village. His co-pilot suddenly passed out mid-flight. Leo saw a bright light above the plane, pulsing slowly. Everything got quiet. The instruments shut down. We weren't falling, but we weren't flying either. It was like we were frozen in air. He regained control after 3 minutes, landed safely, but his co-pilot was never the same. She wouldn't talk. She just stared. She left Alaska the next week, never came back. Is something targeting people or observing them? Some theorists believe that the creature from Portlock or the entity inside Frost Cell may not be alone, that others walk among us or watch us from above. Barrow could be their collection point, a site where they monitor, test or take. The disappearances follow pattern, always alone or in pairs, always during low solar activity, always on clear nights, always in silence. Witnesses, if any, describe the same thing. A low hum, like machinery underwater. A flash of light, then nothing. Theories? Abductions for study, human experimentation or behavioral observation. Targeted removal, those who saw too much. Environmental adaptation, a slow, quiet invasion. Energy harvesting, the body isn't what they want, it's something else. One theory is darker. What if the disappearances are intentional, not by aliens, but by the government? A CIA memo from 1974 referenced human asset acquisition failures near Arctic zones. It included 3 code names: Project Ice Mirror, Project Dead Silence, Project Aurora Vault, all redacted, but each connected to non-return personnel. Could some of these missing people have been recruited into secret programs or silenced? One man's voice and then silence. In 2016, an amateur radio operator from Barrow claimed he picked up unusual transmissions. He said the voice was Nell, panicked, short bursts. It repeated the same phrase every 30 seconds. They're not human. They look like us. Don't let them take me. Then static. The frequency was traced to a research outpost now abandoned. He tried to report it, but within a week, his equipment was confiscated by federal officials. He left the state 3 months later. No interviews since. What are they hiding? Why do these people vanish so cleanly, so perfectly? Where are the footprints, the blood, the screams? Why does nature stay quiet in their absence? And while company whistleblower once said, when someone disappears out there, the protocol isn't search and rescue. It shut it down, seal the site, don't talk. And yet no national news, no headlines, just statistics, just cold numbers in the back of Coast Guard reports. But each one was a life, a story, a person with family, friends, a future. Gone. So, what are we really looking at? A UFO corridor used for collection, an alien hunting ground, a quiet war between species, or an Arctic laboratory with test subjects? Ask yourself, if you vanished tonight, would anyone know where to look? Would anyone be allowed to find you? One final whisper. In 2020, a government contractor filed an anonymous complaint. He wrote, "The beings beneath the ice have started taking more risks. They're not waiting anymore. They come when they want. We can't stop them." Then he disappeared. If it were you, would you believe? I saw it. The voice trembled. It's not from Earth, and it's still alive. Those were the exact words, spoken by a man who claimed to have worked inside the Blue Glacier facility. A scientist, an insider, anonymous, terrified. But if someone told you that, would you believe them? Or would you laugh, dismiss it as fantasy, madness, a cry for attention? We believe in science. We trust what we see. But what if this man saw something we're not ready to see? His confession came in 2022. Encrypted messages, masked voice, a blurred face during a private stream shared to only a handful of underground researchers. He didn't ask for fame. He begged for protection. They can't know it's me. They watch everything, even now. What did he claim? He worked for a biological subdivision of a defense contractor. His team was tasked with analyzing exotic anatomy. No names, no origins, only tissue samples, bone fragments, clearance levels, Tier 9 and above. But then he was chosen for a cold deployment. Destination, Alaska. Codename, Project Glint. We weren't told what we'd see, only that it wasn't human, and it wasn't dead. They entered the frost cell chamber in insulated suits. Temperature, -50°C. Heart rates monitored. Exit doors sealed until the operation was over. In the center of the chamber, a capsule, 10 feet long, frosted glass. Inside, something breathing. What did it look like? Slender, elongated limbs. Its skin looked translucent, like frozen jellyfish but denser. The eyes were covered, like a second eyelid. No nostrils, no visible ears. But I swear to God it felt us, like it was aware, even dreaming. The team wasn't there to revive it. They were there to study how it remained alive under such extreme cold. The answer? We never figured it out. It didn't follow any biological logic. Cells divided without energy. Muscles pulsed in slow intervals, every 37 minutes. It was as if it was running on time, not blood. But then something happened. They brought in a thermal probe, just to measure cellular heat fluctuations. The moment it touched the capsule, the being reacted. Its fingers twitched, its chest expanded, and for the first time its eyes opened. There was no panic, no alarms, no movement, only the sound of instruments ticking. And then it looked at me, not with eyes, with something deeper, like it reached inside my thoughts. Like I wasn't standing in that room anymore, I was somewhere else. I saw stars, galaxies, worlds I can't name. Then I was back. Was it telepathy, a shared dream, or a warning? He passed out moments later. The experiment was terminated. Security sealed the frost cell. No one spoke again. He was discharged 3 weeks later, given an NDA the size of a phone book, moved to a lower-risk project in Arizona. But the memory, the look in that creature's eyes, it haunted him. He reached out anonymously to a blogger, a researcher, a former intelligence analyst. He needed to tell someone. It's not about whether they're here. It's about whether we're ready for what comes next. He claimed the government already knows, that the Pentagon and CIA aren't debating if extraterrestrials exist, they're deciding how to use what they've found. weapons, communication, genetics, control. But this being, he said, wasn't here to attack. It was here to observe, to warn, to wait. And here's the question. If it's still alive, why keep it frozen? What are they afraid of? Or worse, what if unfreezing it is part of a larger plan? If it were you, would you have spoken out? Would you risk your life to tell the truth, or stay silent and let the lies continue? Doubt is natural. Disbelief is human. But every lie we uncover, every leak, every voice screaming into the void, it all points to something bigger, something beyond flags, countries, or borders. They said the scientist disappeared last year, off the grid, vanished. Some say he was silenced. Others believe he went back. Because what if the creature didn't just reach into his mind? What if it called in? What if this whole series of events, from radar contacts to secret bases to vanishing towns, is all connected by conscious design? And what if the being inside Frost Sal is not the only one watching us? Ask yourself, if you were told the truth, would you want to believe it? Or would you deny it to protect your own sense of reality? The eyes of something non-human have already opened. The question is, will we open ours? Is the truth buried beneath the ice? The documents are gone. The witnesses disappear. The silence is deafening. What truth is so dangerous it must be frozen in time? Why is Alaska so quiet? Miles of emptiness, snow-covered plains, endless nights, and yet it has one of the highest concentrations of secret military activity in the world. Why? What are they hiding beneath the ice? We've heard the stories, we've seen the radar, we've read the witness accounts, but every time we ask for answers, the records are missing. Declassified, then vanished. In 2011, a group of journalists requested Cold War military reports on Arctic surveillance operations under FOIA Freedom of Information Act. They received a thin folder, just 17 pages. No mention of Project Blue Glacier, Frost Cell, Portlock Quarantine, biological recovery operations. But internal indexes showed dozens of missing file entries. Page not found, misplaced during archival transition, redacted due to national security. How convenient, a former data analyst at the National Archives revealed. There are entire storage rooms labeled Arctic Activity Do Not Scan. Those files are on paper only, no digital copies. They don't want those documents ever reaching the public. Why? What if the truth is buried not just in snow but in intentional silence? Consider this. Why does Alaska have over 30 military installations, including some in completely uninhabited zones? Why does HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, operate near Gakona despite publicly claiming it's just studying the ionosphere? Why do GPS signals near certain northern sites occasionally fail, then return as if nothing happened? Why do satellite images get blurred only in specific Arctic locations? These aren't glitches. They're barriers, walls, sensors, masks. One of the most restricted zones in Alaska, Brooks Range Sector 7, officially marked as Glacier Risk Zone, but insiders say it's a containment perimeter, guarded, patrolled, off-limits even to some military personnel. A pilot in 2009 was forced to land nearby during an emergency. He was met not by medics, but by armed men in unmarked gear. They didn't ask if I was okay. They asked what I saw. His plane was taken for inspection. He was flown out blindfolded. His FAA report never filed. Why all the effort if there's nothing there? One chilling theory. There is something beneath the ice. Something not of this earth. and the government has been studying it for decades. Not a spacecraft, not debris, but a structure. Multiple seismic studies, independent ones, show unusual geometric formations beneath certain glacial shelves, perfect angles, cylindrical hollows, metallic readings, and movement. Yes, movement. Seismic tremors every 19 days. Always at the same depth. Always just faint enough to dismiss. But some believe something below is still alive, or waking up. But why Alaska? Why not Area 51? Why not New Mexico? Because Alaska is isolation perfected. No one stumbles into the Arctic tundra by accident. There are no curious tourists, no satellite towns, no local media to chase the story. And if someone disappears, it's just nature, an accident, another name added to the long list of those swallowed by snow. A cold prison. What if what's buried under Blue Glacier isn't just hidden, but contained? A biological vault, a cage, a cryogenic tomb. Because if it ever gets out, it might not just expose the truth. It might change everything we know about life science and history. Let's ask the hardest question. Why are multiple governments, not just the U.S., collaborating on Arctic surveillance? Russia has installations near the Bering Strait. Canada has reinforced cold zone research bases. Even China recently expressed interest in polar biological resilience programs. Do they all know something we don't? Or are they trying to prepare? The pattern grows. Whenever radar records a fast-moving object near the Arctic, military flights scramble but never file a public report. Whenever a civilian goes missing, searches are short-lived. And whenever someone asks questions, they're silenced, or worse, they vanish. The chilling silence. One whistleblower or cryptographer once said, "It's not that they're hiding information. It's that they've built an entire machine designed to erase it. Every photo, every recording, every radar ping, every email, scrubbed, wiped, burned." So, what truth lies beneath the ice? An ancient craft, a biological being frozen in time, a message, a warning, a weapon. Whatever it is, it's powerful enough to rewrite the story of mankind, and terrifying enough to bury at the edge of the world. One last thought. What if the truth isn't just buried in ice, but in you? What if the silence, the forgetting, the confusion is intentional? What if you right now are meant to look away, but you didn't? You're still reading, still questioning, still chasing the whisper through the cold. And maybe that means you're already closer than they ever wanted. The ending, or the beginning of a greater truth. What if everything we've been told is only half the truth? What if Roswell, Project Blue Book, even the frost cell, were just the surface? The final chapter begins with a tremor, not in the earth, but in the system, a fault line inside the lies. March 2024, Blue Glacier, Alaska. A series of tremors triggers seismic alarms in a military base no one admits exists. Sensors register movement not across the land but beneath it. Depth, 2,200 meters. Duration, 11 minutes. Pattern, rhythmic, almost like breathing. A final signal. Drones deployed. Footage, corrupted. Telemetry, erased mid-transmission. But one technician saw it before the feed went dark. It wasn't a natural quake. The ice was pushing up, not down. Inside frost cell, emergency lights flicker. Cryo temperatures rise by 0.8 C. Very noticeable unless you know what's inside. The containment capsule vibrates. The cameras shut off. The logs show access denied. And no one answers the radio. Some say the being inside woke up. Others say it was never truly asleep. And what if it wasn't alone? If even one alien craft was recovered? If even one body was stored under military seal? And if even one being survived? Then how much else is hidden? How many vaults buried in snow? How many secrets sealed in silence? How many towns erased? How many lives silenced? What if this isn't the end of a mystery, but the beginning of something far larger? Imagine this. The government has known for decades. The creatures aren't just observers, they've interacted. And the cover-up isn't just about fear, it's about control. Control over history, over technology, over humanity's future. We've chased the fragments, radar contacts with no source, flights that never existed, creatures with no match in nature, witnesses who swear on their lives and lose them for speaking. Now all of it points here, to Alaska, to something under the ice, to something that may finally be stirring. So we ask again, if the CIA knows, if the military has locked it away, if every document, every screen, every clue has been buried, what else have they hidden? What about the other facilities? The base near Nome, long suspected to be a radio intercept hub, or is it a monitoring station for deep space transmissions? The Arctic cave system beneath Denali, sealed after 1971, never reopened. The satellite blackout near Prudhoe Bay, where a research team vanished in 1999. Too many questions, too many connections, too many coincidences. But maybe this wasn't meant to stay buried forever. Maybe the truth is pushing through the ice, one tremor at a time, one leak at a time, one whisper that won't die. What happens when the being inside frost cells steps out? When the cameras can't be shut off fast enough? When a witness doesn't vanish but goes public? Maybe that's why this story matters. Maybe that's why they work so hard to hide it. Because if we know the truth, we stop being passengers in the dark and start becoming something more. The silence of Alaska is not empty. It is full of something ancient, something watching, waiting. Maybe it's alien, maybe it's not, but whatever it is, it's awake now. And here we are, at the end. Or is it just the beginning? One final question. If the government came to you, showed you the truth, revealed what lies beneath, would you want to see it? Or would you close your eyes? Because what's under the ice may not stay under much longer. Thank you for joining this 13-part journey. We leave you not with answers, but with the most powerful thing of all, a question. What else is out there that we were never meant to find? And when it finds us, will we be ready?